In the village of Neander, tucked between lush banana trees and sun-kissed hills, life moved with a gentle rhythm. Chickens chased dust devils in the streets. Children ran barefoot under the blazing sun, and elders told stories beneath the shade of a giant baobab tree whose roots were deeper than the village's own memory. It was here that Amora lived. Amora, with her skin smooth like river stones, and eyes that sparkled like sunrise on Lake Victoria, had once been just like every other girl in the village. Humble. Quiet. Gentle with words and even gentler with her heart. But then, she changed. Not in soul, but in status. Money backed the glow-up no one could explain. Overnight, Amora transformed from a girl wearing hand-sewn wrappers to a woman dressed in silk garments that whispered when she walked. Her home, once made of mud and straw, now stood as a painted clay compound with a gate that creaked like it had secrets to tell. Her ears glimmered with real gold. Her shoes were the kind even the chief's wife secretly envied. And on her left ankle, always on her left ankle, was a glowing, gold anklet. Fine as spider silk. Etched with tiny snake-like patterns, too delicate to be handmade. Nobody in Neander could explain it. She must have found a rich uncle in Nairobi, some villagers whispered. Pfft. She's probably married a minister in secret, others speculated with dramatic eyebrow raises. When asked directly, Amora would just smile politely and say, "God has opened my path. Let us be grateful." But not even the pastor's wife, who had tried twice to accidentally trip over Amora's doorstep to get inside and snoop, could figure out where her wealth came from. Snake a strange relationship with water. There were other things too. The children once dared each other to spy on Amora during her morning walk to the river. It became a village game, watch the shadow, they'd whisper. Her shadow never walked in step. Sometimes, it bent when she stood straight. Sometimes, it slithered behind her like a long tail dragging behind her feet. And once, one brave child swore it flicked its tongue. People laughed nervously about it. Old Mama Kehind, the village herbalist, stopped laughing the moment she heard. "She is bound to something," the old woman muttered to her mortar. "Something deep and old. Mark my words, that anklet is not just jewelry." Patipopa, the festival that changed everything. One bright Saturday, the entire village gathered to celebrate the annual Harvest Moon Festival. Music blared from homemade drums and tin can shakers. The smell of roast yams and grilled goat filled the air. Faces were painted with chalk and ochre, and laughter danced like fireflies. Amora, of course, came dressed like royalty. Her head wrap was gold-threaded. Her dress shimmered with tiny embroidered suns. But it was the anklet that caught the light just so. It glinted with a hypnotic gleam as she moved. She danced with the women, laughed with the children, and even shyly joined the men in singing old warrior songs. It was the freest anyone had ever seen her. But as the night grew deeper, and the drums louder, something changed. Tornado panic in the moonlight. Around midnight, a loud scream cut through the music. It was Amora. She was down on her knees, digging frantically in the red soil near the dancing ground. Her hands scraped the earth, her breath came in gasps. "The anklet. Where is it?" she cried, her voice sharp and terrified. At first, people thought she'd lost a coin or perhaps a ring. But Amora was shaking. Not sad shaking. Fear shaking. Like her soul had been snatched. "Did anyone see a gold anklet?" she asked, nearly begging, her hands trembling. "Please, I have to find it." The crowd quieted. No one had seen it. No one moved. No one spoke. Even the night wind held its breath. Snake the strange omen. That was when the dogs began barking, howling, even, at nothing in particular. The village generator flickered. The baobab tree creaked without wind. An old Mama Kehind, seated quietly near the fire, whispered just loud enough for those around her to hear. She has broken the pact. The morning after the festival was heavy with silence. Not the peaceful kind, but the awkward, nosy kind. You know, the kind that creeps around doorways, crouches in gossip circles, and peeks through kitchen curtains. Amora didn't come out of her house. And in a village where everyone comes out before sunrise, if only to fetch water, sweep, or start their daily side-eyeing, her absence was louder than a talking goat. Kanda inside Amora's room. She sat on the edge of her bed, eyes puffy and hands shaking. Her bare ankle felt exposed. It was the first time in 5 years it wasn't adorned with that glowing gold anklet. The skin where it had rested was slightly lighter, as if the sun itself had refused to touch that spot out of respect or fear. In her hand, she clutched a wooden comb. Not because she needed it, but because it had once belonged to her grandmother, and she needed to feel something real, something grounding. Something human. She closed her eyes, and the past came flooding back. Snake 5 years ago, by the river. It was the dry season. The river had shrunk to a narrow stream, weaving like a shy snake through rocks. Amora, back then still just a quiet village girl, had gone to fetch water late in the afternoon. That's when she saw it. A snake, large, shimmering, and gasping like a fish out of water. Its scales were unlike anything she'd seen before, with glints of emerald and copper. It had a deep gash on its side, oozing dark, unnatural blood. Most would have run. But Amora knelt beside it. "Don't worry," she whispered, tearing part of her wrapper to wrap its wound. "I won't let you die." She stayed with it until the sun disappeared and the stars blinked open. Then, it spoke. Yes. It spoke. "You have shown kindness without fear," the voice hissed gently, but powerfully, inside her mind. "In return, I offer you the riches of the river. But you must wear my gift, the golden anklet, always." Before she could respond, the snake coiled around her leg once, shimmered brightly, and vanished, leaving behind a glowing anklet around her ankle. The next day, things began to change. Money came. Clothes. A house. Opportunities. Her path in life, once uncertain and dusty, suddenly gleamed like the morning dew. But she never told a soul. Not even her reflection. Fire present day, the bargain is broken. As she sat recalling the past, a sharp gust of wind blew through her room even though her windows were shut. The lantern flickered. The mirror cracked, without reason. And then, the voice returned. "You lost what you swore to protect." Amora gasped. "The snake spirit. You broke the pact," it hissed, angry now, darker, colder. "Do not test the patience of things older than stone and deeper than the sea." "I didn't mean to," Amora whispered. "I'll find it. I promise." "You have 3 days," the spirit warned. "After that, what I gave, I will take, and more." And just like that, it was gone. The room fell still again, except for the sound of Amora's terrified breathing. Magnifying glass tilted left, the suspicion begins. Daylight had barely broken when Amora wrapped herself in a blue shawl and began visiting neighbors, casually at first, acting like she was just checking in after the festival. But her eyes were searching. Everyone was busy sweeping or cooking or pretending not to be curious about her sudden change of mood. Until she reached the last house on the far edge of the village. Zubaida. A widow. Sharp-tongued. Fiercely independent. And quietly, dangerously, jealous. Zubaida had once courted the same man Amora turned down years ago. He later left the village, but the bitterness had stayed behind, haunting Zubaida like a second shadow. "Morning," Amora said, offering a smile as fake as festival eyelashes. "Surprised to see you this early," Zubaida replied, leaning on her broom. "Looking for something?" That sentence hit different. Amora stiffened. Just checking if anyone found a lost anklet. I think I dropped it last night. Zubaida raised an eyebrow, the kind of eyebrow that practically shouted, "Oh really?" I didn't see anything, she said flatly. But her eyes darted, just for a split second, toward the inside of her home. It was quick. But not quick enough. Amara noticed. Snake dream of wrath. That night, Amara couldn't sleep. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw the river again. Only now, it wasn't calm. It boiled. The snake spirit rose from it, larger than before, eyes glowing red like hot charcoal. You are wasting time, it growled. Your wealth is borrowed. I can reclaim it with the flick of my tail. Fail to return the anklet, and your body shall be the next thing I wear. Amora awoke with a scream. Her bed was soaked with sweat. A faint hissing echoed in her ears. And outside her window, she saw two red dots glowing from the forest edge, like eyes. Waiting. Watching. Zubaida was not used to guilt. She was used to getting even. So when she found the golden anklet lying quietly in the grass the morning after the festival, half buried like a forgotten coin, she didn't see a cursed relic. She saw an opportunity. She didn't even hesitate. She slipped it into the hidden pouch sewn into her head wrap and walked home with her chin held high, like a queen returning from battle. But from the moment she crossed her doorstep, her house knew. Snake, the whispering begins. That first night, Zubaida placed the anklet in her wooden jewelry box and slid it beneath her bed. She went to sleep smiling, dreaming of all the things she'd buy once she sold it. But at midnight, she woke with a start. The walls were whispering. Not loudly. Just enough. Low, raspy murmurs, like voices trapped in a bottle. She sat up, heart pounding. Who's there? Silence. Then, from the mirror across the room, a shape moved. She crept toward it. Stared. For a split second, she saw herself, but her reflection's eyes were glowing red, and something long and serpentine was coiled around her neck. She gasped, stumbled back, and blinked. Just her reflection. Back to normal. But her breath came fast, and cold sweat trailed down her spine like a lazy spider. Money with wings, the money appears. The next morning, Zubaida woke to something unexpected. A neat stack of crisp, blue-striped currency notes sat on her kitchen table. She stared. Then counted. 50,000 shillings. Her hands trembled, half from greed, half from fear. Had someone come in the night? A secret admirer. An error in the universe. She didn't ask questions. She simply spent. By noon, she'd purchased the fanciest fabric at the market. By evening, she was wearing a new gold chain and ordering roasted goat from a man who usually ignored her at the food store. The villagers noticed. Shushing face rumors in the wind. Zubaida is glowing, whispered one woman at the well. She used to wear the same wrapper 3 days in a row. Now look at her, muttered another. But the whispers weren't all compliments. Her house glows at night, a boy said. I saw smoke coming from her window, and no fire, added a girl, clutching her baby sister. Something's not right there, said Mama behind, once again stirring her pot of herbs like it held the answers. Things get weirder. Zubaida tried to keep it together, but the house wasn't having it. The whispers grew louder. Mirrors distorted her face, gave her fangs or made her eyes slither like eels. The money kept coming. Not daily, but every time she whispered her wish to the anklet and slept with it beneath her pillow. But sometimes, the money vanished. Sometimes it turned to dust the moment she touched it. Once, it turned into snakeskins, folded like notes. Still, she pressed on. Because greed is louder than fear, at least, at first. Spider the village watches. People began walking past her house more slowly. Children stopped playing near her gate. Even the dogs barked when they got too close. Zubaida noticed. She even enjoyed it. The power. The mystery. The fear. But she didn't know she was being watched, too. Not by the villagers. By something older. Snake, a visitor in her dreams. That night, she dreamt of a river. Black as oil. Still as death. She stood on its bank in a dress made of coins. The golden anklet was on her ankle now, but it had melted into her skin, glowing and burning. Then she heard it. A slither. A hiss. The water split. The serpent rose. Massive. Regal. Its eyes were rubies, its tongue gold. You took what was not offered, it hissed, voice heavy as thunder. You feed on what you do not understand. Zubaida tried to run, but her feet sank into the mud. You want wealth, the serpent coiled around her dream body. Then here is my offer. It opened its mouth wide. Inside was a palace. Jewels. Silk. Servants bowing. But the moment she reached out to touch it, snap! She was suddenly inside a cage, inside the serpent's body, watching her reflection drown in gold. She screamed. Waning crescent moon awakening to silence. Zubaida jolted awake. The anklet lay beside her, glowing red hot, like a warning. And on her wall, carved into the plaster by something, were the words. Choose wisely. The village of Neander didn't wake up to roosters that morning. It woke up to screams. Zubaida's house was the source. Again. But this time, it wasn't whispers or flickering lights. It was a swarm. The riches turned rotten. Just hours earlier, Zubaida had danced barefoot in her living room, surrounded by stacks of fresh, crispy notes. More money than she'd ever seen. She laughed. Twirled. Tossed it in the air like confetti. I knew I was chosen, she said to herself, sipping mango juice from a wine glass she'd stolen from the church. But when the morning sun touched her windows, things changed. The moment she tried to pick up the money, it moved. It twitched. Wriggled. And then, crawled. The money peeled back to reveal cockroaches, beetles, and fat black flies, pouring from the cracks like a living flood. They covered her floor, climbed her walls, filled her drawers. Some even had her face. Zubaida screamed and ran out barefoot, her once shiny dress flapping behind her like a curse banner. Older adult medium dark skin tone Amora's search for answers. Meanwhile, Amora had spent the night in prayer, her face tear-streaked, her hair unbraided. She knew time was running out. She couldn't go to the chief, he thought her strange. She couldn't go to the church, they'd try to burn the anklet if she found it. There was only one place left. Mama Kihind. The village healer. Mama Kihind's hut. The old woman welcomed her without words, just a nod, like she'd been waiting. You've danced with something older than your bones, Mama Kihind said, her eyes milky but sharp. You gave your yes to a spirit, and now you've lost the offering. Amora fell to her knees. I never meant to. Please, tell me what to do. Mama Kihind pointed a wrinkled finger toward the distant river. Midnight. Go to the place where you met it. Alone. No jewelry. No lies. Amora nodded. And child, the old woman added, it doesn't just want the anklet. Spirits always ask for more the second time. Water wave midnight at the river. The moon glowed full, casting long, silver shadows across the riverbank. The water was quiet, almost too quiet, like it was holding its breath. Amora stepped barefoot into the shallows, heart pounding. A single ripple spread outward. Then, the surface split. The serpent emerged, taller now, regal, terrifying. Its eyes were flames. Its body shimmered like obsidian soaked in oil. You returned, it hissed. Amara knelt. I lost your gift. I'm sorry. I've come to make it right. Words do not fix broken pacts, the spirit growled. A new offering must be made. One soul. Willingly given. Amara gasped. No. That wasn't the deal. And yet you broke it, it said coldly. The air grew heavy. Even the crickets stopped singing. Please, not someone's life. The serpent's tongue flicked. Then suffered the unraveling. And it sank beneath the water, leaving the surface boiling behind it. Derelict house back at Zubaida's. Zubaida hadn't slept since the swarm. She tried burning the anklet, it wouldn't melt. She tried flushing it, the toilet hissed back at her. Now she sat, hollow-eyed, on the floor. The house smelled like copper and rot. Her mirrors were all broken. Her radio only played static, and sometimes whispered her name. She was tired. But then, something happened. The anklet glowed again. Not angry red this time, but inviting. And beside it, on the ground, a neat pile of money shimmered, real again. Crisp. Clean. Unmoving. It was like nothing had ever gone wrong. Zubaida stared. Her heart began to beat faster. The serpent's voice slid into her mind. Choose. Keep it, and belong to me. Or return it, and lose everything. Balance scale the final choice. Zubaida stood. She picked up the anklet and looked in the last surviving mirror. She looked older. Paler. Her hair grayer than it had ever been. But she also looked rich. She clutched the anklet to her chest. I've come too far to go back. Whole and then gone. The next morning, villagers approached her home cautiously. The door was open. The air inside was freezing, despite the warm sun outside. And in the middle of the room, on the dusty ground, was a shadow. Perfectly shaped like Zubaida. But there was nobody. No footprints. No signs of struggle. Just a shadow. Motionless. And a hissing sound that faded slowly into silence. Morning in Neander felt different. Not just because the birds were quiet, or because the wind carried a chill that didn't match the season, but because Zubaida was gone. Completely. No note. No footsteps. Just her shadow, stuck in her house like a warning nobody dared touch. And that meant only one thing in a village like Neander. It was time to gather. Candle the gathering by the river. By noon, nearly the whole village stood on the banks of the great river, the same place Amora had once whispered her bargain. Children clung to their mothers' skirts. Elders held walking sticks a little tighter. Even the chief, who normally arrived fashionably late to everything, including weddings, stood at the front, waiting. At the center of it all stood Amora, barefooted, bareheaded, and wearing the simplest wrapper she owned. Her eyes were tired, but her heart was clear. Then, the river rippled. The water parted, not violently, but gracefully, like a curtain being drawn open. And from its depths rose the spirit. Snake the spirit speaks. No serpent this time. The spirit appeared in human form, tall, dark-skinned, with eyes that burned like firewood coals and a voice smooth as whetstones. Even the trees leaned closer. Hear me, people of Neander, it began, voice echoing like drumbeats. 2 women. 2 choices. One rooted in kindness, the other in envy. Amora gave without knowing I watched. Zubaida took, even when she had been warned. The crowd held its breath. The spirit turned to Amora. You broke our pact, but sought redemption not with tricks, but with truth. This shows you have learned. Then, from its robe of woven river reeds, it pulled out a small object. A simple wooden bracelet, plain, smooth, and uncarved. Take this, the spirit said. If you wear it while giving, your heart will never be empty. Your needs will be met. But if you use it to take, it will turn to dust. Amora, tears in her eyes, took the bracelet and knelt. Yellowheart Amora's redemption. From that day forward, Amora changed. She sold her fine clothes, turned her house into a community kitchen, and wore her wooden bracelet like a badge of honor. People no longer whispered about her wealth, they praised her generosity. She didn't just give money. She gave time. She gave food. She gave stories. Books. The school by the river. 1 year later, Amora opened a small school under the same tree where she first found the snake. It was a circular hut with no doors, always open. There, she taught the village children numbers, letters, and folklore, not just the myths of the past, but the lessons buried in them. She told them of spirits who could grant wealth, but not wisdom. Of choices made in moonlight. Of how kindness is the only thing that always returns. And on the wall above the doorway, painted with natural dyes, were the words: true riches live in the heart, not the pocket. The moral of the tale. Zubaida vanished chasing riches she hadn't earned. Amora stumbled but rose again, choosing humility over luxury. The spirit didn't demand worship. It demanded balance. Because in the end, African wisdom is simple. Greed multiplies, then devours. Kindness multiplies, and nourishes. Sparkles the end.